Hey, welcome back to the Buck Junkie Podcast. Man, it is weekend after.
Deer season is here.
It's here. We had opening weekend last weekend, guys. We had a blast.
Had a good time. Ate good. Had a lot of laughs. That's all it's about right there.
Killed a few deer.
Killed a few deer.
Ground some.
Not ground checked. Not ground checked.
Yeah,
ground
I
up.
ground checked the coyote yesterday.
Yeah. Mark split one in half.
It's bad. But
Mikey got on board. Mark got on board.
we told y'all that weeks in advance. Opening weekend, we shooting does.
Me and Malcolm's holding back to see what we got to shoot towards.
I was thinking y'all's bullets wouldn't go off.
No, we started this. So we talked about it last week. It's our doe challenge. Instead of having that biggest buck contest, we're going to do the biggest doe contest. You got to weigh one in before December, before Christmas, and then one before the end of the season. So me and Jamie just wanted to see. We wanted to gauge.
It's just a challenge for us to kill a doe right now.
So $1 a pound.
$1 a pound.
Man, I thought I had it. Come out strong with the 110-pound doe, and
big
Mikey
doe.
edged me out with 6 more pounds.
We got these hill country doe. They don't get just ginormous, but
Mikey's would have been 120 pounds. He ain't shot it with that slug gun. That slug gun knocked about 4 pounds off of her.
Man, that thing.
I've never hunted with the shotgun, but man, that thing.
I can tell
done a
you,
number.
Within 100 yards, you can put that 12-gauge shotgun against any rifle.
That's not they were freaking deadly.
That thing will snatch the life plumb out of a deer. It ain't going nowhere. That doe, in her mind, she done took another step, and she didn't. That thing just face first down in the dirt, didn't even kick.
How'd that go down? So you didn't get in the heater stand.
He
roughed it.
Yeah, you went out and we had a ladder stand hung up on wind was coming northeast that day.
Northeast, yeah.
You had the perfect spot kind of because you knew which way they
blew straight down that ditch that I was hunting. So so I was sitting at ladder stand, and I don't know. I wanted to sit up there because I sat up there once or twice last year, seen some deer up there and stuff. But I wanted to get up there early this year and try to see how the deer are coming in and out of the property right there. Because me and Mark went up there and looked around, but we had found some trails back during the summer. They were kind of hard to see. That stuff is still kind of grown up, But they come in and out of the property there. They cross the fence right in there somewhere. But anyway, I was sitting up there, and they kind of slipped up on me, and it was right at the end of the hunt. It was about 10:30 in the morning. They finally come through. Got some close enough that I wanted to shoot at.
Yeah, it was late because I done put mine on the rack when you said doe down.
Did you have to pick a spot? How was it shooting through all that stuff?
She blew the path.
Yeah. These came straight under me, so when they come from downwind, so when they come from downwind, the back doe, she smelled me. The front doe didn't for some reason. The other one had done got past me, the one I killed, and they jumped across a little four-wheeler trail we got there, and she went in the other side of the woods. When she did, she turned sideways, and
she was in that sweet gum shooting lane?
No, she wasn't in the shooting lane.
They were actually down. You said they were downwind, right?
Yeah, they come from downwind,
which is unusual. But they didn't know where you were.
No, they got right up under me.
They smelled that bologna and biscuit.
I'll tell you one thing. They probably did up at the camp. That's where they was headed.
Yeah.
They was finna double back, go get them some breakfast. Well,
I throw corn out of my pockets on the way to stand. They trail them in there.
In case you get lost.
Your little breadcrumb trail, like on your maps. One of my favorite things this weekend was the weather. It felt like deer season. Man, how many deer seasons have y'all had recently where we was out there hunting short sleeve shirts?
Yeah,
fighting mosquitoes.
Yeah.
Opening weekend is usually not a really good weekend to hunt. It's always kind of warm, and weather-wise, it's always warm, and it's not ideal what we want to see. But
I think felt like deer season.
Well, I think this cold weather's pushing that rut sooner because they were wanting to push a little bit.
All the little bucks I saw was with does. I didn't see any good chasing. Did any of y'all? Who saw some chasing?
I had over at the hilltop. It was but you wasn't up but 4 point and 2 spikes, but they were pushing it doe pretty good.
Yeah.
I never seen a good buck chasing a doe. It was
Will saw one that was a pretty good one, didn't he? It wasn't a shooter, but it was a.
It didn't come out. It had been a shooter.
Yeah.
He did text say he's seen a pretty decent buck.
It was with some the ones I saw. I mean, Waylon recorded some of the big field where they were bucks in there running other bucks off all day, but they weren't tussling good. They weren't chasing does. They were just kind of grouped up. So we're seeing that early stage where the bucks are still feeding a little bit. They're not crazy. They're not full blown crazy, but they're still making scrapes.
A couple of them still grouped up together too.
Grouped up together. The ones I saw were grouped up. I saw a lot of young bucks.
Man, I seen a very young spike check a scrape, and I guess he hadn't been to school yet to learn what to do with the scrape. He pooped in it. He didn't pee in it.
They do that. Hey, I found it.
I was like, man, you got this backwards. You're not supposed to poop in that one.
I found all kinds of stuff in them. Between deer, coyotes, possums,
I think
coons poop in them. I mean,
the coyotes have checked that scrape just as much as the bucks.
They do. Yeah, that's a calling card.
I don't know
for
why.
all animals. I guess they're just drawn to the scent of it. That's got to be what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
I guess it's seeing who else or what else is in their home range or home zone.
We got one more coyote that ain't gonna check another scrape.
Mark pretty much halved one, didn't he?
Yeah, we turned it into 2.
How
But
far a shot was that?
it wasn't 75, 80 yards.
That 28. I mean, there just ain't nothing but some skin hanging left.
I'll be the first to tell you, when it comes to a coyote, I don't care if I just got in the stand, it's prime hunting time. If I see a coyote, I'm shooting it. Because to me, that's the worst thing you can have on your property.
Yeah.
And I just got in the stand, got the heater on, windows defrosted, and I just happened to look out a corner of my eye, and it come running across that field, and I was like, and he was running pretty fast. I was like, ain't no way I hit this coyote, running like that. So I just kind of just made some kind of racket to get him to stop, and he stopped and looked, and that was the last thing he done.
He shouldn't have stopped.
No.
Man, we almost lost a Buck Junkie team member to Coyotes last weekend.
Waylon went full-blown panic mode. He'll sit out there. So my brother will sit out there till
Midnight.
Dark.
well after shooting light. He wants to get down, but they're in the field. He don't want to spook them. So it might be, I don't know, 5:45.
I mean, I seen a message like, Waylon, I can't see my crosshairs.
It's probably been 30 minutes that you can see, wasn't it?
Yeah. And he's still hunting.
Me and Michael got down. I know it was, 5:25. It was after shooting light. And I told Waylon, or Michael, I said, I bet Waylon ain't even thought about getting
I knew
bet
Jamie wasn't going to like that either.
Jamie's sitting there just waiting on him. So Waylon finally goes to get down. I guess he's walking back to where
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I got it, I mean, I ain't scared of them, but I can't stand the coyote.
Because you can't see them for one.
And they were pretty close to me. And then they lit up on Waylon, and man, they was close enough to me and Waylon. I could hear them growling. So, I mean, they was right on top of Waylon.
Waylon said there was one chewing on a bone. They was circling him. I said, did you have your headlamp on?
No, he didn't have a light.
No, I didn't want to draw no attention to myself. He said, I want to be on their terms.
He had
a gun out. He said, hell yeah, I was toting it like SOCOM. He was walking around.
Now, if y'all don't know who Waylon is, that's Malcolm's brother. And how tall is Waylon?
I don't know, 5'6", maybe.
Yeah, so he's kind of short,
4.
He's and to have him in overalls and running, I would have loved to seen that.
He had hard debate on whether to come on toward the Can-Am to leave or go back to the stand for me to come get him. He didn't know which way to go.
Man, I have walked, when we used to have a big Trump stand over there where it was on the ditch, closer to the ditch, I've been sitting in that stand and got out, and they run right by my feet.
That was
right by the step. They run that ditch. And I tried to shoot one. I mean, they ain't going to mess with you. They ain't going to jump on a full-grown person.
Not unless they bad, huh?
Yeah, they'd have to be starving, and these weren't. I know they sound a lot, especially when they're grouping up. It
sounded horrible.
Howling and barking and carrying on. But Waylon was he knew he was getting attacked. He said they done picked out a weak one.
Yeah.
They knew they could catch him.
They knew they could catch him.
He was thinking about them hyenas on Mutual Long Haul when we were
What he was
kids.
thinking about jumping
They
on
done
there,
circled him.
biting their butt, just gnawing him down.
Yeah.
He thought Jamie was going to pull up there and have a pack on him.
He was still shook up when he got to the camp.
Oh, yeah, that's the first thing he was talking about.
I said, Waylon and Coyote's pretty close. He said, man, I ain't gonna lie. He said, I was scared. He said, I didn't like it. He said, man, they
He
were
had
real
the
close.
best hunt out of everybody, and the first thing he said was the coyotes was going to
Get
get him.
to get him.
He's seen, I don't know how many deer he saw that night.
It was over
He was
30.
in a zoo.
He filmed a bunch. He got a pretty good 8-point buck working me. He was the boss of that field. He was running around with his chest poked out, working a scrape, kicking dirt back, thrashing the bush.
I'm very surprised on that.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
I mean, it wasn't a bad deer by no means.
No, he's
The video he sent did not do that deer justice, because once we was looking Sunday, it was Sunday afternoon, and actually pulling the pictures up and looking,
Pretty good deer.
he was a pretty good deer.
Yeah, he was probably 16, 17 inches wide.
He could easily get shot if he come out busting up on a doe. And
Hey, me and Michael went back that next morning. Waylon went home, and was it that evening or morning? We went
No,
back?
that morning. Y'all went yesterday.
Yesterday morning.
And that joker, we got in there before daylight, sitting down, and deer started coming.
y'all just knew y'all was finna shoot Waylon's deer.
That one cranked up in that. He cranked up in that.
They was
ditch.
growling.
I would swore it was somebody with one of those Primos buck roars messing with me. I never heard one that loud. It was a brrr. all up and down the ditch. I was like, man, this dude's pissed. I don't know if he's mad because we was in there and he had the scrape wasn't far. We didn't even know there was a scrape there until Waylon filmed the deer. I hadn't been walking down looking for him there. And, man, that jerker was mad. But I guess he was just found something. He was trying to see what was in the field. There wasn't no does out there yet. Because when the does finally come, that stand every morning, it's every 15, 20 minutes you get a different set of deer. And usually there's a buck behind them somewhere.
There's no question that is the best stand out of every one of them down there.
It's a hot one.
Well, that was the whole field was kind of trial and error on the trial.
Well, even last year when it wasn't nothing in the field, I've seen 41 in that stand. It's just, I think that stand's centrally located between all them properties. They got cover all the way around. And
big ditch, they can run.
It's
pine thicket.
Well, did the growling buck ever come out?
Never did. He never come back. I don't know. He was downwind of us though. He was behind us, and that's the one place that we didn't need him to come from, and that's where he was. I think he was bedded down in there when we got there, because we kind of walked in behind all that, eco edge we made, and you couldn't really see us get in the stand. And then once turkey started coming down and all that stuff, it was on for him.
That has changed that entire field, the activity and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about that. Those bucks don't.
The way they act.
They don't just dart across the field anymore.
No, they're out there casually just walking around.
Every single one of them have come out you can catch them when they come out of the woods because you can see the racks. And then they'll come to the edge of the eco edge. So they're really 10, 15 yards out in the field. They just think they're safe in that grass.
And you could make that shot if you needed to.
Oh, yeah, easy. Because it's them, instead of just being horns poking up, it's chest up.
Yeah.
They're out looking the field. When they calm down. And what I've seen them do now, they're still feeding, so they're not on straight missions. But they'll come out right on the edge of that and start feeding on the edge of it. And they don't check up, and then they'll ease across the center to where Jamie left some more of that grass.
Yeah.
And they'll get in that, and they'll stand and they'll check the field again. We're used to, they'd come out and stay in the woods, and then they just beeline across. They'd find the nearest part, and they'd go all the way across.
That's what me and Mark was talking about, adding that same
to every
layout to like Trump field with all the turnips in it now. Break that field up too.
See, I think
no-brainer.
I think we've hurt that field, Trump, because the turnips look great, but there's zero.
It's 9 acres of turnips.
Yeah, it's a ton of turnips, and usually that stand's pretty hot, and it's not been bad. We've seen deer out of it, but we were looking yesterday if we could do that same thing, either standing corn or that grow in the wall or whatever. And kind of just break that field up, and you would have basically the same situation because you got the ditch, you got all the thickets around it. Just create another stand and try to duplicate
it is
that.
The same.
Yeah,
which that's what Mikey did. The hilltop. Hilltop's been on fire every time somebody's hunted it this year.
They like that sage grass and they like that cover. It ain't no doubt.
I think, changing it all to just one thing in the field is it's not the way to go.
Mm-mm.
It's okay for your little micro plots.
Small plots.
Because you ain't got no choice. There's woods around. There ain't really room for making edges. But on them big fields, you got to break that up.
Yeah, you got to design that to benefit you, the hunter, your travel corridors and, different things like that.
You got to understand it's not going to look like what you see in these magazines. It's not going to be a lush green. You're going to break it up. It's going to be a lot of just crap out there.
Yeah.
But it's cover.
Now, one of the coolest things that I saw this weekend I've never seen was about 65 turkeys come off roost and get out in that field. And me and Michael was sitting there, and there's some of them up above us. When we got up in the stand, I could hear some stuff rustling. I don't ever think to look up this time of year, see what's in the trees, Probably should, but I don't. But they started hitting the field right at daylight.
Oh, it was still frost on the ground.
It was probably
6
a.m. We got in the stand, I don't know, it was about 5:45, usually about 15 minutes, and then you can legally shoot right about there, as it was, something like that. And the turkey started hitting the ground, and them jokers started cutting up, and I didn't know they made that much noise this time of year.
How loud were they?
Man, it was loud. Like you could pick it up on my phone camera, and we were, 150, 200 yards away from them.
Yeah.
And it sounded like something you would see on a National Geographic or something like that. Man, they started coming down from everywhere. Them joggers grouped up and stayed in that plot all day, all morning long. I think we hunted till about, 11:30 that day, and there were turkeys in the field when we left. The deer calmed them down. Now, we had one coyote bust through, and I popped him. He ran down the ditch. I don't know how good a shot I made on him, but he wasn't happy. But he was trying to get those turkeys. Man, I'd never seen a coyote try to do that. He come out of the eco edge and crept down along, and I was like, man, there's something moving over there, Michael. And we looked, and I got my binoculars out, and I said, take him, it's a coyote, and he's going for them turkeys. And the turkeys were all out there. Well, he got close enough to a few of them flushed and just went up in a tree. And that's really what, I knew what something was messing with them. And as he got closer to me where he was in range with that legend, oh, man, I had to get him. I shot over some turkey. Now, it would have been a mess up if I'd hit them turkeys. But I shot over the turkey.
This year, turkey's real fresh.
Yeah. But I shot over him and hit that dude, and he took out, and I hit him. I'm pretty sure I hit him a second time, but he didn't dirt roll or anything. He tailed down off in the ditch. And I said, well, if I didn't get him, he's really upset. Yeah. So.
Well, we did learn something from that, though. When somebody borrows your gun, make sure to shoot it after you get it back.
You always want to do that.
Was y'all able to get in and out without anything seeing?
Yes, that was a cool thing. Now, I don't know. Once I get out and start heading around, heading away from the stand, I'm back through the tall grass.
Yeah.
I don't look back to see. I'm not going to turn around.
You don't want to know.
But once you're only visible for about half the steps on that stand before you drive. When you get off the grass, it's way over your head. You know? So they can't. If there's anything out to your right, the ones that are kind of closer to you, back up where those oak trees are, they're going to spot you as soon as you come up around the corner. But there wasn't anything up there. Now, yesterday morning when we come out, there was 6 doe standing where we parked the Can-Am. I'm talking about we had it tucked in. Them jokers did not care. You know how those little turnips are? The frost gets off that ground really fast. The sun hits it just right. And so it thaws out first, and the deer pile out of those pines right there. And I guess we've been watching a few of them that morning, but I didn't even notice the ones that were up under the trees. They were just, I don't know if they were bedding down, just eating acorns right there.
There's acorns right there, too.
But they were just having a congregation. And so we got up there on them, and it startled them. They were like, oh, crap. And they didn't go like wild and like flag and everything. They just turned around, peeled off in the ditch.
Yeah.
What is that, Sudan grass? Is that what it was?
Some of it's Sudan grass, Egyptian wheat, and there were some other little like wild grasses that have grains on them for like game birds and stuff, and which the Johnson grass got in there. I couldn't spray it, so it's got a lot of Johnson grass in it too. I just left it.
The turkey probably 5 foot, 6 foot tall, all the way down through there at least.
Yeah. The turkeys absolutely love it.
Yeah,
they pick in and out of that stuff. I mean, if it stays, it's as cold as it's been. It's probably not going to lay over anymore unless it just gets trampled.
Yeah, because
the animals are using that stuff and they feel safe in it.
And if y'all don't know what we're talking about, we've got videos on this on TikTok. We've done some videos on the Eco Edge and stuff like that. You can check that out there.
Sudan grass is the one that looks kind of like corn.
Yeah.
But it's tall. And they got, Sudan grass and then
Egyptian wheat.
I was looking at the other that is I guess related to it. It's called elephant grass, same kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's what's tall right there at the culvert. It's like 12 foot tall.
Yeah.
And now the only problem I see with that stuff is we didn't plant near enough of it.
No.
Yeah.
Because, man, that side, if it would have went on down the ditch past the stand all the way down to where it gets narrow down there, well, because you leave enough from the ditch to the grass, you can see that path. And what the deer do, I've noticed them when they pop out of the ditch, they'll stop where you expect them to, look in the field, and then they'll ease over a little bit. They'll get in that grass and they'll stop again, and they just hang out. And then they're looking at the field. And then when they do that, they'll feel like easing out and coming over. And before you know it, they have slowly worked to the middle of the field and go into the next set of grass.
Yeah.
It's just a calming thing for them.
And I think, last year there was not anything planted in those fields over there. It was disced up, and just the natural winter grass and wild grass that was out there came back.
We had 15 acres of just wide open.
Yeah.
Nothing, no breaks.
And this year we've got, we've actually planted some good stuff in there. And I think that makes a huge difference too. It's drawn in a lot more deer than what we've seen last year right off the jump.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's
turkeys is loving it. They're eating it up.
They're living there.
I don't think I've ever been through there that I didn't see a wad of turkeys in there.
Yeah,
it don't matter what time of day it is.
Mm-mm.
I don't know. They won't be there come spring, I would imagine.
I don't know if it's still green. They might be.
We're gonna figure out how to hold them. Yeah. We're gonna keep doing that.
They love it though. They love roosting in all those pine trees. I mean, they start coming down like
all that grass stuff's gonna hold bugs and everything else for them to get in there and pick around, scratch on too.
Me and Malcom seen some big old turnips that done made it to the top.
Oh yeah, them deer.
It's finna get right.
I was smelling them deer pulling them turnips up, eating them like apples.
Are they?
Yeah, yes. It's like
I saw a radish, dude. That daikon radish was nearly.
Oh, they're big.
Heck yeah.
They're bigger around that cup.
We're gonna start
I guess
farmers market.
I guess the deer had pulled it up out of the ground. I don't know how else it could have got out of the ground like that.
It was a big one.
Yeah.
No, it was big as my foot. Like, it was big as my boot. Like, it's big.
That's what I wanted anyway. That ground's so tight and packed down there.
That's
so those radish and turnips, they got a long, they'll.
Loosen it up too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, we noticed we went to move the camera yesterday off the turnips and move it to the other side of the field, and we were pulling the camera up, and I was just looking, because you can tell where them deer browsing turnips really easy, because, I mean, it's just little sprigs sticking up directly to the left that was not on camera. There's no way you would have seen it. There was a spot 3 times the size of this table that was not a turnip leaf on it. I mean, it looked like they just stood in that one spot for hours and just keep
They
eating.
took a lawnmower and just mowed it right.
And it's amongst all the big tall turnips. It's just one spot. I don't know if it's maybe they didn't get bitter as quick, or maybe the frost got them first, but it's one area out there and they wore them out.
Well, what I've noticed, and it's fixing to help us on that. You're worried about the grains not coming up through those turnips.
They're coming up
They're
now.
coming up big time.
Are they?
Mm-hmm. I seen it yesterday.
Place.
I hadn't been down there in weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks before season, I guess it
It
was.
was 2 weeks before season last time I was down there in that field. So I hadn't rode around or done anything, kind of just not disturb anything. So I didn't get to see it.
I had a spike out there for 3.5, 4 hours yesterday, at least.
He ate 4 hours worth of turnips.
Yeah.
Man, his stomach
With the dead cat
got
laying in the
hurt.
field.
Yeah. He wasn't sure about
He's
that
gonna be
coyote,
cleaned out.
Yeah, man.
but I watched him. He started off. He come out of the ditch, checked that scrape, put on a little bit of show, and then he fed on the cereal grain that was right there on the edge of the field that turnips aren't in.
Yeah.
And he stayed there for a minute, but he made his way out in turnips, and I don't know, like, I guess they're not as easy to eat, I guess, because he would take a big mouthful of it, and he'd stand there and chew for like 5 minutes before he got another mouthful. So I don't know if he was taking bites out of the turnips. I couldn't tell that well in the binoculars, but he stayed out there all morning until almost 12 o'clock.
Well, deer are pretty much like us, though. I mean, they, you want the tenderest steak on the menu, so
That's
you
right.
you don't want to.
Man, speaking
They're
of
gonna eat that first. I
tender
imagine.
steaks, how was that Como meal Friday night?
Don't ask Mikey.
Three out of
yours
4
was
says good.
Man, mine was the best I'd ever had.
That's the best
there.
one I've had from Como.
It was amazing.
Mikey just don't like Willinghams.
Oh,
Plain and simple.
really?
It's got to be something like that. I like Como Steakhouse. It's a great restaurant. I love their appetizers. It's great, but I very rarely order steak down there.
Really?
I did this time.
It's one of the best steakhouse atmospheres you'll ever go to, I think.
Oh, my filet, you didn't need nothing but a plastic spoon to cut it. It was so good.
Yeah, I ordered the ribeye, and the ribeye was tender, melt in your mouth, cooked perfect. And then Dukers was sitting beside me, and he ordered the filet. He said, "You got to try this filet." I said, "Man, I want the ribeye." He said, "Well, try it." It was like pandemonium.
Yeah.
That jerker melted him. I was like, "Holy crap! I didn't think it would be better than this ribeye." I said, "I would order both." Yeah, they was that good. I mean, mine, they couldn't have done it any better. I don't know if I just got a good one or what, but it was fantastic.
Weekend went by quick, super
It did.
quick. I mean, heck, it's
It went really
Tuesday.
fast.
Yeah, well, I hunted yesterday too. So, well, you did too.
Yeah.
So we hunted both.
We drug out all our processing stuff. That's the first time we've ever deer went from standing on hoof to it was vacuum sealed, packaged, and ready to go within 2 hours.
What'd you call it? From graze to grind?
Yeah, graze to grind pretty quick.
Yeah.
It did go. I was impressed with everything we used as far as equipment
Yeah,
goes.
this
It was
year
pretty fast.
I had like a small limb. I think I got it at Bass Pro. It's called the Big Bite Grinder. I think it's what
That's what it is. Yeah.
half horsepower motor.
And it's what most everybody
That's
has.
what most everybody. Well, we stepped it up this year and got that Meet Your Maker stuff.
2.5 horse.
And,
That thing makes no noise.
No,
I didn't know
it's
y'all
quiet.
I didn't know y'all was over there grinding.
You can flat grind 2 hindquarter like that was,
Bone and all.
yours. You deboned it, cut it up, got the sinew off of it, cubed it, had it ground in probably 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It was that fast from cutting it off the, off the bone on the table where you could work with it and get it totally ground, and then ground the beef too. I had never. I hadn't used one. That was it's almost like a commercial grinder, I guess.
We're wanting to do a lot more processing this year. And, I mean, we've always processed our own stuff and done steaks, and we've done ground and sausage and the normal stuff. But we're kind of wanting to do different stuff because, I mean, we run in a situation where you just got so much deer meat. Bad as I'd say it, you got to change it up.
You got to get creative.
Yeah, and get stuff different, especially if you have guests or kids or whatever. You want to make it different so they enjoy it. So we got a hold of Meet Your Maker, and we got the grinder, the stuffer, mixer, slicer. What else was it?
Chamber vac.
The chamber vac. Yeah. And we're just trying to up our game and get some, different ideas. But I had some Wagyu brisket trimmings from a barbecue contest just a couple of weeks ago. So, heck, we'll bring it down there and grind it up. And that was probably about 5 or 6 pounds of beef. And it had a lot of meat mixed in with the fat, but that Wagyu's so marbled anyway, you're getting almost 100% fat. Yeah. And so we was going to grind some ground beef, ground deer, whatever. And so we made, what, you say that's probably about 30 pounds total, 25 total.
Let's say 5. Yeah, it's probably more like 15, 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got 8 2.5, 3 pound bags. That's probably.
And then I made 18 smash burger patties with it for lunch. And that was something else. Like, you always hear people say, don't go straight from, dressing it to processing it, let it age. And I know, Jamie, we're going to talk about this today, but I wasn't sure how that ground would be. It was delicious.
How many of us was it? 4,
6?
It was 6 of us, 7 of us.
18.
We ate 18 patties.
Yeah, 18 patties almost wasn't enough.
They were so good.
They were real good.
I would have bet people could not tell that was deer meat.
It was about a pretty close, just guesstimate 80-20. I mean,
yeah.
We were shooting for 80-20, and that was one thing we filmed it, so y'all be looking for this to come out, but we kind of showing you ways to process this. And I mean, we didn't have a scale. We were eyeballing it, and it don't have to be perfect science. I mean, you look at it, that looks close enough, and we roll on with it.
That was pretty much what you did. A quarter of the lug was ground beef and fat.
And then fill the rest of it
the
up.
lug was deer meat, and we dumped it off in that Meet Your Maker mixture.
That's so much easier.
I was highly deceived on that. It looks too simple to work as good as it worked.
Yeah,
man, it was. What'd you say? Maybe 8-10 minutes top?
No, not even that. I mean, if
20 cranks.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a manual crank. People's like, well, crap, that's got to suck. You literally can stick your finger out and just. I mean, it's
easier than jacking up a trailer.
Yeah, it ain't nothing to it. Yeah. But we got it mixed up, and then I think what made that ground beef or ground deer what it was the double grind with the finer teeth.
Yep.
Or the finer holes, and it was just as tender and soft, and man, they done great on the
smash burger was fantastic. It was
perfectly mixed.
Yeah. So it worked out. I mean, it done an awesome job for sure.
I've always done it by hand. Like, you dump it all in a bowl, and you got to get elbow deep in there.
All the fat sticks to you.
And it don't get mixed really good. I mean, the double grind, once you get it all incorporated and you run it back through that smaller die plate, that's the game changer on it. It gets it to perfect consistency.
I think Waylon was more impressed with the chamber vac than anything.
That does. I'm anxious to see how much that changed as far as, we've always questioned that with these regular vacuum sealers. It pulls it down so hard, and you're pulling so much out of that meat because you're putting that meat in my opinion, an unnatural state. You're pulling it down to where you're just squishing it,
And pulling moisture out.
You're pulling moisture out. You're pulling everything out of that meat. With chamber vac, it does none of that. It pulls only air out, nothing else. I mean, we vacuum sealed water, and it didn't pull. The water never moved.
Yeah.
So I'm anxious to see how that changes stuff, And
I mean, granted, it's not as fast as a Ziploc bag or vacuum sealer
in
general, but I think overall quality, you're gonna have a better end result.
I think you get better storage out of that, the way it's preserved.
Because air is what ruins everything in the freezer, pretty much.
Before we left yesterday, Mark got it back out. And we sealed up those tenderloins and back straps, and it did them perfect. I mean, it was. That's what we're gonna have Friday. Fried backstrap tenderloin.
It's gonna be good.
Gravy and some taters.
There you go.
Friday night dinner.
Before we roll into our topic, y'all want to touch base on last week? We covered all the stuff before we roll in this week.
And we talked about 350 Legend, how bad of a gun that is.
350 Legend.
People didn't like it on TikTok.
Oh, that's. I tell you.
They didn't like my turkey gravy I did on my channel either. So
you get people come out of the woodwork, man. I don't care. Like, you shoot whatever gun you want to shoot.
That's right. It's your preference.
Yeah. I mean, if you were shooting,
if we were
1,000 yards, yes, you could find probably a little bit better quality barrel.
They got on there talking about Bear Creek Arsenal ain't no good, man. Well, you never missed a lick with it.
We ate good because of it.
Yeah. Some of my Remingtons ain't no good either, but I like a Remington.
Yeah. But man, I got tickled. I got on there and marked myself safe from the AR-15 snob. Man, get out of here with that crap. We don't care.
We're hunting.
I got a $100 gun, and everybody's like, "Oh, if you have to." What was one dude said? If you have to hunt with the AR-15, you just get out of the woods. Man, we're in freaking America. If I want to go hunt with whatever I want to, by God, I will.
You want to take that slingshot?
Yeah. But no, I got so tickled. It's just like a whiskey snob. They want to go in the liquor store and be like, "You got any Blanton's? I only drink Blanton's. I only shoot a $5,000 AR." Yeah. I'll shoot my $250 upper and kill the hell out of them.
Ain't nothing wrong with it.
But anyway,
what else we talked about last week?
Youth weekend.
Youth weekend.
Speaking of, that 350 Legend,
mowed them
meat
down.
on the table.
That was it. Yeah, I guess we didn't really have Michael's the only youth still that hunted with us this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rest of the boys are.
They done broke the 16 mark.
We got to pull them off of it, isn't it?
We finna start putting in the work on gutting and processing. We're gonna sit on the couch.
I don't think Michael likes mine and his bet together.
Oh, what was that bet? If he gut shot one.
If he gut shots it, he has to dress it. If he hits it in the shoulder, I'll dress every deer for him.
Oh. Yeah.
That's a
He was
win-win
reluctant
there.
to shake on that one.
Yeah,
He was like,
He looked at me and said, "No."
You got him gunshot to shoot. He's trying to shoot in the head now. He's like, either I'll miss or I'll hit it.
I know somebody else that missed this weekend.
Hey, man, it happens to everybody.
But again, that goes back to shoot your gun after somebody borrows
That's
it.
right.
Well, did you end up being off a little bit, or
Yeah.
It was, I don't know. I'm gonna look it over. It was hitting a little bit to the right, and I mean we only shot it at 50 yards under at camp, and it was hitting to the right a couple of inches. And I don't know. I'm gonna clean that gun up and go through it and just recheck everything and make
it's
sure
been
everything's
shot a lot?
Yeah,
Y'all had several rounds shoot through it.
but we're gonna double check everything. But
You hadn't looked at it yet, have you?
no, I got it cleaned up some. I'm gonna pull it all the way apart and pull the springs and stuff out of the lower and go through the whole thing and clean it. It definitely needs it.
Jamie, what are we
ready?
talking about today?
So we're talking about all these deer we done shot. So what's like once you shoot the deer, processing it and getting it to the table? What's everybody's go to or how you do it? I kind of a little bit of research on it about get people to ask like I shot. You'll see comments on Facebook all the time. I shot a deer. Took me 4 or 5 hours to find it that's still good, the meat bad or not. But so like, what's a safe timeline from the shot to dressing a deer?
All depends on the weather.
weather and where is
Or shot placement.
Yeah.
Shot placement too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you hit it in the guts and it's been sitting out there in the sun for 6 hours, it's probably gonna
it's
be pretty
no
strong.
go.
I mean, I would get the back straps, but I probably wouldn't mess with the mineral loins. But I think
it depends. It depends on how long and what temperature it is. I think that's the biggest deciding factors. Because you shoot one, you have to back out on it. As long as it's cool overnight, that deer's gonna be fine till in the morning.
You know, we did that with like Michael's deer last year when he
There was
shot
snow
that.
on the ground.
There was snow on the ground, but that deer it died in the water out there, so it took in a lot of water.
Pond water.
I mean, he was so heavy, me and Mark couldn't get him out of the pond almost.
Yeah.
That deer weighed 300 pounds by the time we got him out.
No, it was heavy.
Water
It was just waterlogged. So now, I was worried about all that contaminated, bacteria in that water and stuff like that. It's done got
Well, as soon as we skinned it, the meat was a completely different
Yeah.
color. Like there was no doubt, like it was contaminated.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody wants to waste
no.
any type of meat, and do injustice to the deer. But then again, you got to.
I would say if it's above
You gotta be
45
safe.
degrees, you got 4 hours.
Yeah,
It would be because that's the same thing we do when competition meat. Once it starts changing temperature or coming off the pit or getting down below that 140 degrees, you got 4 hours.
Yeah, so ordinarily, like from everything I read, like your breaking point is around 40, 42 degrees. So once you below that, you're pretty safe for several hours. Above that, it's kind of sketchy.
You'll know.
Really, if it's above 40, you need to field dress it.
Yeah.
Get the organs, get the guts out of it fast.
Which will drop the internal
cool.
meat
That,
off
that
there.
cools the cavity. If you have access to some ice or something, or a way to rinse it out pretty quick, get that cleaned out, and then that helps you.
Yeah.
That buys you some time. Now, if it's before 40 degrees after that, man, I prefer to hang that deer.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
always better. I mean, it lets it start breaking down. Lets whatever, I think it's called the lactic acid that's in the muscles. It does it. It goes through rigor mortis and it kind of breaks down and starts that process. And after about 48, 72 hours, something like that, it's prime.
Yeah.
And that's when it makes it easier to skin. The skin comes off easy. You don't have to worry about sticking.
All the old timers, they always wanted to
Yeah.
hang them.
Well, my dad did when we was little.
You mentioned exactly what I kind of wanted to lead into was rigor mortis.
It sounds like that's a horrible sounding
It's a
word.
terrible. It's
like a roadkill,
Yeah.
But I can't remember whose podcast it was I was listening to last year, a while back, and that's what they were talking about. Is like you have to have the perfect, I guess, whitetail deer, any deer for that matter. You have to let the rigor mortis process go from start to finish. And I never understood why, but basically the way I understood it is as the meat's attached to the bone. Now you don't have to let it hang. You can quarter it out, but leave the meat attached to whatever it is. So say the hind quarter. When rigor mortis happens, that meat's drawing up. Well, if it's not attached to a bone holding it, it draws up into a knot and basically makes it tightened up and gets tough. Well, if it's still attached to the bone, it still draws up, but the fibers are holding to the bone and it stretches the fibers instead of letting them draw up, therefore making it more tender. And there was a scientific theory behind that, and the guy went into way more detail than what I am, but it made sense. Like,
how do you know when it's over?
Huh?
How do you know when it's over?
I think it takes like 20-something hours, or it's several hours. But like physically, I don't think you'll be able to look at it and tell, but that's what there's
time. What's going on in that muscle? Right.
It's basically just taking, instead of like you cutting a rubber band. If you stretch that rubber band, cut it, it pops together. When you take it off the bone and rigor mortis is not complete, it draws up and tightens up, and all your fibers and cells are a lot closer together now. So it was pretty interesting.
I mean, you think about it, you kill a deer and go back to your truck, get your side by side, whatever, and go back and get it. Heck, that thing's stiff as all get out. And
it don't take long.
That's the starting process of it.
Yeah. But what are some other ways, if you can't hang it, that you can let that happen? You put it in a refrigerator?
Have a refrigerator. Yeah. Have your refrigerator in your garage dedicated.
On ice and get the liquid off of it? What are y'all's thoughts on that?
So used to, everybody killed a deer, or me personally, killed a deer, quartered it up, threw it in
That's how we were taught.
And dumped ice on it, and then just drained ice out. Well, if you notice, your meat goes from a darker red to like pale pink to almost white looking.
Kind of leaches.
So yeah, it's pulling all the blood out, and this might be just my theory, but I got to where I was noticing my deer meat getting freezer burnt. Well, I think all that moisture was marinating back in the meat,
replacing the blood.
Yeah,
you were brining it in water,
and
basically.
It was your freeze burn. You was getting a couple of months out of a deer versus 8 months to a year out of one in the freezer. So now you got the meat bags. We'll put them in meat bags or garbage bag, anything, or leave the ice in a bag. Just keep as much moisture as possible off the meat.
You got to keep it in a cool environment.
Yeah,
without being submerged
in contact with water,
liquid or yeah. That makes sense.
It was like Jamie did the one that I killed, and the mark. What we didn't grind up a marks, we put in that cooler. You just left the bag of ice intact. And that way the moisture it stayed in that bag of ice and didn't get out on the meat.
Yeah. There's your product to come up with, a shelf system for your coolers where you can get all your ice in the bottom, the meat in the middle, and then more ice on top.
Yeah.
And it doesn't touch anything.
That's what it was actually, I seen a guy did that, and he kind of, I guess like a baker's rack he put in his cooler and just layered ice in the bottom of it, and it had it built up off the bottom where the meat wasn't in direct contact with the ice.
So you have, like, if I was wanting to do something like right now to say, hey, I need somewhere to store this meat without using a cooler, I would either say get you a cheap refrigerator, put in your garage or your shop or whatever, and dedicate that. And all you have to do is basically just pull it in on the racks. Now, you have to wash this refrigerator out every couple of weeks or whatever, but just put it on the racks. That's what we used to do at the shop.
Yeah, if you put it on a cooling rack, bacon rack, cookie rack, whatever, and then put a half pan or full pan below it, and your drippings go in it. You're not cleaning nothing.
What I like about that is it dries that meat out to where you can cut all that silver skin and sinew off easy. Because if it ever gets wet, it turns to slime.
Mm-hmm.
So having that air dry around it, you can trim your hindquarters, your back. You can get all that stuff cleaned up way easier. But
so you're going to lose some of that.
You're going to
lose the outside skin.
You're going to lose it anyway.
What if you leave the hide? See, that's my thinking. If you leave the hide.
So if you're hanging deer outside, they still say, Daddy always left the hide on it. They'd gut it, field dress it, rinse it out,
water hose,
and hang it up. And his shot where couldn't nothing get to it, and he would leave it. Heck, we have left it over a week out there.
Yeah. I've heard people leave it 7 days, 10 days.
But most of the stuff I read, they recommended getting the hide off because it let the meat cool down quicker. But I don't know. That's kind of I don't know.
And I have seen too a couple guys take a old deep freeze, like a chest type deep freeze, and then put that controller on it that plugs in, like so where your deep freeze plugs into the wall, you plug this controller in and put a thermostat in, and you can make the deep freeze run the same temperature as a refrigerator.
So it doesn't freeze.
So it doesn't freeze it. So you can make it run 38 degrees or 35 or whatever you want, and then use the chest style deep freeze just like you would a big cooler.
Yeah,
and you can put them.
Work.
Yeah, it worked great. And you can, a lot of times you can find them chest freezers because nobody wants a chest freezer anymore. You can find them pretty reasonable.
Yeah. I'd like to build a walk-in cooler. That's my ultimate goal.
Ideal.
Build one big enough to hang up.
Well, now you can buy the panels and do a regular residential refrigerator I mean, not for air conditioning.
with one of the cool bots.
Yeah, and it
Yeah, that's what I seen the guy do. Just
And
stuck the
fairly-
window unit
I mean-
in with a cool bot on it, and it regulated it, and that was his meat code.
It overrides that air conditioner shutting
conditioner.
off and just lets it
Mhm.
keep running, and you can adjust it down to where it'll stay 40 degrees.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to build one, this is strictly me being curious. If you, instead of buying like the refrigerated panels, could you not just do one out of like 2x2, frame it out,
I've seen a
foam
guy,
insulate
foam,
it,
yeah.
and then put FRP on the inside
and the only thing you got to buy is a freezer door or a refrigerator door.
and
door.
That was where you spent your money, on the door to seal up. And I guess you could get a super insulated exterior door and insulate it on the back side and use it. But that's where most people spend their money, on a nice latching freezer door.
So that's what I was thinking. If we just built a 10x12,
you have to do the floor,
do the slab,
ceiling, and the walls.
and I'd put a drain in the slab, and then insulate it foam, and then you could
probably in all lines could buy the panels.
I don't know what the panels cost.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
I didn't
I
even
don't
think about
either.
looking
I've
that up.
never priced them. I think your money would be. I mean, most of your money's going to be in the
Cooling
slab,
part,
the cooling
that and the cooling part.
But you look at it, one of those cheap window units and a cool
$200.
bot, you're going to be $300 or $400 in. One of those over the top self-contained refrigeration units, thousands of dollars.
$12,000.
Now, you can buy the freezer box, the panels, I think, for a couple grand, and then but you got $4 or $5 grand in that in the refrigeration unit.
I talked to a guy at a hunting club, and what they're looking at getting is a reefer trailer because you can get them fairly cheap.
I thought about that.
Yeah.
Remember we were looking last year?
You can get them fairly cheap.
Or what if you just took a little 6x8 enclosed trailer and insulated that dude?
That's what I was. So that's what led me to believe, like, let's do a trailer to where, like, for us, we'll use it year round.
Yeah.
You know, because we're all the time dealing with competition meets, stuff like that. Have it at camp in the winter, hook up trailer, bring it up here to the office. Have when we do events or whatever, we have a walk-in cooler for it.
That'd be interesting.
So on the hanging deal, I didn't ever think about it. What's the game bags? It's like I guess like a pair of pantyhose. You
Looks like cheesecloth.
Yeah.
And they say it works great on doing a dry age. Bugs won't get on it, dust and stuff like that. And
I think that's where you see them used a lot. People that are
packing out meat.
Yeah. They put it all in there.
Because it lets the aging process go, but it's keeping your meat as clean as possible.
Yeah.
Also.
So you're talking dry age, and I'm thinking two different kinds of dry age. You're talking about hanging dry age and letting it sit out there for a couple of days.
I mean, ideally, that's the most you're gonna get your meat the most tender way is gonna be a dry.
And then I'm thinking like how I done that one time. If you wanted to dry age just specific cuts, like I mean, I've done back straps in my fridge at home. You know,
For how many days?
I done 2 weeks.
Wow.
And it was, I didn't have nothing fancy, and this probably ain't the right way to do it. I was just playing with the idea. Had 2 back straps, put them on a cooling rack, make sure they were as clean as possible, dried them off, put them in a pan, put them in a drawer compartment in my refrigerator that I do not open, do not touch, nothing. Well, I take that back. I done a week. I'm sorry, not 2 weeks. I done 2 weeks when I put it in the dry age bags, but it was just a week like that. And it does get bad looking. It gets dark and, it gets dry. But you shave it off, and it was probably some of the best back straps I've ever ate.
Oh, it was that plastic spoon tender too.
Yeah.
It was good.
It won the contest.
Yeah. I've never been a huge fan of the long dry age. I just don't like that.
Well, we've tried it
Way the
before. We've done them
meats,
whole beef loins, and I was not a fan.
Yeah, I wasn't either. It's a good way to waste a lot of meat.
Because you'll lose on the deer being only a week. If I had to guess, if I remember, I would say you probably lost about 10 to 15%, something like that. But
most of that's moisture, and then outside that ages
you can't use it.
Can't use
Shave off or slice off. That's like on a deer getting a process. You're not getting back. You carry a 180-pound deer in there. You're not getting 180 pounds of meat back. That's the misconception some people have, I think.
Yeah.
You're probably,
No, so what do you think the yield is, say, from a walking deer? Just use 100-pound deer. Just good,
if you're processing yourself, your yield's going to be probably 40%.
So you think if you cut it all, that's cutting everything.
That's being very conservative, getting everything you can.
You're going to get 40 pounds of meat
Probably.
out of a 100-pound deer, hoof weight, live weight.
That doe of mine was 110, and I tried to get neck roast off of it, and it just wasn't much there. It wasn't much. I got as much as I could. We got the front shoulders. I cut the back straps as far as I could. Cook everything off the hindquarters. We got the inner loins. The only thing I did not go in and do was cut the meat between the ribs.
Yeah, I would say you probably did have 40 pounds of meat then. That included the bone weight on shoulders and stuff, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, because once you take that bone out of that shoulder, I mean, that shoulder ain't got
You ain't got 3 pounds of meat on the
There's
shoulder.
not a lot of meat on it.
They don't yield as much as the point being they don't yield as much as you think. So you
No,
drop
no.
a deer off of the processor, you think you shot a 100-pound doe or whatever.
I'm gonna get 60
doe.
pounds of meat. No, you
No,
ain't.
Yeah, you probably ain't getting that much.
And like I said, then again, it depends on the process. A quality processor, you're gonna do better than one of these fly by nights. You know, the cheapest price on processor is not gonna be the best product for you. More than
Probably
likely.
not. You like you was talking about. You got to get all that sinew skin off of it. You still got to get all that fat off of it. So you cleaning that meat up to where it's just raw meat. I mean, you got a lot of waste there too, not including just the drop of the bones and the carcass and stuff like that.
And most people aren't messing with the rib cage, trying to get all the meat out between the bones or the brisket,
Very
all
few
that
people.
stuff. Very few people will cut the flat meat off the sides. You know, that just gets thrown.
I mean, so we usually don't,
and we usually don't either.
unless we're grinding the front shoulders. I had some guys, Mikey got some guys, and
We give the shoulders away.
yeah, we're not wasting anything. If we
I
can compare
do.
it to somebody, we will.
I do want to try something this year, and I've seen a couple of people do it on social media, and I want to say Meat Eater, one of them, I think I talked to you about it, was talking about they take all their trimmings that they take off of those cuts and anything, their bones or whatever, and they get a stock pot and they make broth and they freeze the broth for like when they do soups and stews with their deer meat, they use that broth that they make.
Shoulder.
Yeah, like they drop the whole shoulder in there, the bones from the shoulder, all your trimmings, your sinew, all that. They boil that to make their broth and then strain it through cheesecloth, and then they freeze those in bags. So, I mean, if you really want to get,
Yeah, but it's like making beef broth.
it's a lot of work, but I mean,
And
I
it's-
believe
you-
it'd be
you-
excellent in stew.
Yeah,
I know Bearded Butcher's got some hands down bad to bone videos
Yeah.
on processing.
how to break it down.
Yeah, them guys are.
They're pro butchers.
Yeah,
They are.
they're pretty impressive.
We're jack leg fly by night butchers. We get the job. done.
Our knife slips and we cut through stuff we ain't supposed to.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you don't hear that poof noise. You're
Yeah.
good.
You ain't kidding. Oh,
And I think that's got a lot to do with it too. It's having good knives. I mean, you got to buy no $200 knife, but keep a good sharp knife.
That's right.
And
So, let's talk about breaking one down. We talked about what we think the yield is. What about breaking one down? Like, where do y'all like start? I know most of the time we hang them up,
Hang 'em.
hind quarter by the hind quarters.
shoulders, back straps, deep on the hind quarter.
That's where you start with the shoulders,
Mhm.
skin it,
So I
Skin
start
it
taking the
down.
shoulders off.
Yeah.
I've always, ever since I was a kid, we've always watched my dad and uncle and everybody dress them. They start from the hind quarter to skin it. Well, it works fine. Here recently, I've started dressing them out at the front shoulder, ring them around the leg, and then go all the way up the seam like you were going to cape it out.
Armpit to
Yep, armpit all the way up
crotch.
to the shoulder,
Yeah.
and then that's when I start caping the shoulder out. And I feel like that's a lot easier. You don't get no hair on your meat. Like it's a lot easier that way to me. And the only hair that you even cut that's will flake off is on the front leg. So if it falls off, it's not falling on anything. It's hitting the ground, or your tub. But that's how I done the doe this weekend, and it was a lot smoother, a lot cleaner job than what I have
Almost
done
like
in the past.
unzipping her.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Then you wring out those shoulders, hitting that joint at the leg, separate.
I can get it every time.
That's the one that gets me. I never get up. I guess, and Mark showed me, explained it slow motion. You got to get above that elbow.
It's like
Further
you feel
than
the
you would
ball
think,
part
yeah.
of the joint.
I'm always wanting to go right through it at the elbow. You can't get through that.
You go
That's
about
what-
an inch above,
Yeah, and then you cut back down towards that joint,
cut it back down.
and then come underneath and hit it back up. Cut that tendon.
The inside of the leg is the most important cut. So you ring it off right there to where you feel that tendon break and you push the leg all the way back. The inside portion of that leg, if you go up just right above the joint, and as soon as you touch it, you'll feel it. I mean,
It'll
it's
like
it's
almost
like
snap
just comes
off.
off.
So it takes that socket, that ball out of that
You
socket.
cut that cartilage right there at that socket, and then you just cut through it, and you got the front leg off. You don't need a saw. That's one thing. We never touch a saw
Yeah.
anymore. We don't. Everything's done with a pocket knife.
And then the shoulder's not even really attached, it feels
It's
like.
muscle. That's it.
Yeah. It comes right off, and you cut it up high. Take both of them off, and then you just come down the back. Start with your back straps,
Yep.
right?
I start through the back straps. That's one thing I do like. If you let one get cold and like Jamie and everybody's talking about hanging it for a little while, that back strap comes out way easier because
It almost peels out.
it does because
Yeah.
I think that goes back to the whole rigor mortis is everything's drawing up, so it's already kind of separated, and all you're just touching a little bit of I don't even know what you call it. It's almost like silver skin that's dried up, and you can just peel it right on out. It's a lot. When they're hot, a backstrap's harder to cut out, if you ask me.
That makes sense. So what do you just get right on? You find the spine, make
Find
the
the
cut,
spine,
top to bottom, right up against the spine, then go back to the top, just kind of start rolling it out, and then peeling it right off the rib, right off the top of the rib.
That, or you can do a 2-cut, slice down the spine, and then if you've done it enough, you know where to come down the edge of the rib cage.
Yeah, it's the same thing. If you once you cut down each side of the spine, if you'll look, a lot of times that fat membrane will kind of pop off and go toward the ribs. If you just run your hand under that, you can feel the seam to where the backstrap stops.
And you need to roll it.
And
that way you maximize how much
you get as much as you can. Now on a bigger buck or a bigger doe, once you get down that backstrap toward it starts tapering off toward that front shoulder. If you'll keep cutting, it's just like those tri-heart muscles on a cow that we talk about on ribeyes. It gets super tender and it'll kind of taper off and get small. But if you got a big one, you can go all the way to the neck. I separate that out.
It's kind of like that money muscle of the deer.
And it is. It's as tender as an inner tenderloin once you get down to that point.
Now, what do you mess with on the neck? I mean, I know it's got to be a pretty good sized deer to get some decent neck roast.
You get the neck roast.
You just go right along the side, just like you're taking backstrap off, kind of.
If not, I mean, cut it out and grind it. I mean, that's good grind.
That's what we done to this. I mean, I tried to cut the neck roast out, and it just wasn't. It wasn't enough really there to be like, hey, this is a roast. Yeah. So that's when we just keep it up.
Those bucks have got a lot more meat on them than.
And it's just on each side of the neck.
It's on each side. Yeah, you're all the stuff in the front, the esophagus and all that. You're gonna cut around all that stuff. You're gonna take that out, but you get 2 roasts off each side of the neck. That's pretty decent roast.
Yeah, they're good roasts.
Now, when you come back to the hindquarters, what's y'all's preferred way? Do y'all disjoint them, take them bone in?
I fillet it off while it's hanging.
Yeah, cut it off.
Leave it hanging.
So this is the tricky part though. When you go to cut that hindquarter, stand on the back side of the deer. Because you're gonna cut that tendon that it's hanging on. That leg's going. If you're flappy. Yeah, if you're standing on the rib cage side and you cut that tendon, it's going to knock you on top of the head. Yeah. And it ain't a little gentle.
Learn that.
Yeah, it'll do it.
Self-inflicted.
Speaking from experience.
Yeah, but we always cut.
So when did y'all start doing that? Because I was always taught we quartered it up.
Who showed us that?
Man, the guys, I want to say the guys I used to hunt with at the hunting club in Water Valley is where I first seen it. They would actually done the exact same thing, but they had the deer laying down on its. Some of the guys probably done it with a spotlight on it, flashlight. They done a belly side. They done a belly side down, and they cut the hide down the spine and folded around. That way, you got no hair on nothing.
You just unwrap it.
Yeah, you got no hair on nothing that way. But that's how they done it, and then that's where I learned to do.
We'll have to do a little video.
They learned how to get the back straps out fast first.
Right.
Then, if no cars coming, they learned to get the hands off the bone.
But that's
and they didn't mess with the shoulders. I bet.
Daddy and them always had a meat saw.
Yeah.
Done pretty much the same thing Mark said, except they left the back strap in the deer. The deer was fully gutted then, and they get the meat saw and cut the ribs out.
They done bone in back strap.
And you had bone. You had like a T-bone.
Where would
Mikey done them?
Where would they cut the chine bone? How would they cut it off the spine?
With the hatchet?
No, Daddy had a meat saw back then, a hand saw like we got down there.
They just saw right.
He would saw the rib cage off, both sides, cut it off at the shoulder, and then cut it off at the hindquarter, and you had the backbone, with your back strap, tenderloin, all that still in. And they would slice it up in like miniature T-bone steaks in between each rib.
Yeah, you catch that inner loin up close
would they
to the
come
rear
back
end.
and split the spine too?
No, you had a T-bone with back strap on both sides.
I see what you're saying is the actual spinal cord where that all. No, you cut it on each side of that.
Okay.
Yeah. Cut the rib cage off down each spine. But the same thing. Your imaginary line, if you was cutting the back strap out.
You cut it the same place.
That's kind of the line you would follow and cut it with the saw. And that bone, the marrow, when it cooks in there, you're talking about a dang good steak.
We'll do that on the next one.
You can make some tomahawks like that.
Me and Mikey done it year before last, maybe. It sucks. We didn't have the right tools.
No, hatchet don't work. Hatchet's too many fragments in it. But
and then stripping those rib bones down, you want to clean them off too.
Yeah.
I cleaned some of them up when I got in the house. You can do that different ways. You can use fishing string or something like that.
It just looks nice and it does cook good.
Oh, you could you could get it off and you could do some little miniature tomahawk.
You could do a full crown roast of deer.
Yeah.
Leave every bone in and peel them back a little bit. You don't have to make them super long because a deer rib bone, that jugger's got a rib bone.
It's long.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing between them hardly.
No, there ain't much meat to mess with. That's why we don't ever do it. And people want to say, man, can't you cook those ribs? Yeah, but once you cook them to where they're tender enough to eat, there ain't nothing left.
It's one bite.
Yeah.
Now, that guy at the physically challenged hunt down Arca Butler we do. That's what he's a his background is butchery, and that's what he done. It looked like buzzards got through when that guy did, but he cut all that out, and he said, man, that's what he uses for his grind and his jerky.
Yeah.
He used that, that flappy meat below the ribs.
He makes that ground jerky too, where they put it in the jerky gun.
Yeah, he'll do that. Yeah. Like I say, the more time you invest in the initial, the better results you have at the end for it. I mean, whether you're carrying it to processor, if you carry it to processor nasty and leaves all on it, you're probably getting leaves ground up in there.
Oh yeah, you carrying it full buckshot. You probably got buckshot in there.
If they got one of
you
them,
might get something. Hey, that's got something in you didn't shoot buckshot.
They got one of them meet your maker grinders. It don't care. It's gonna spit it out right the end.
Yeah, that and that's one thing you talk about getting your own processing equipment, taking the time, cutting it up right. You're gonna have better tasting deer. You're gonna know what's in your freezer because you harvested the animal. You took the time to skin it, to cut it up right, and then you took the time to grind it and preserve it right. It's going to be the best taste. It's totally different than when you go to take a deer to a processor and you don't know whose you get.
So just say on average between does and bucks we kill 3 deer apiece.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 12 deer times $200 to get processed. You done paid for all your equipment right then that you're gonna have for next year.
And you don't have to. I mean,
you got to buy top of the line.
And I love that new grinder we got, but you don't need a 2.5 horsepower grinder.
I started out using the grinder attachment on my mama's kitchen.
Yeah, mixer. Yeah.
You could buy that thing for $20 back in. I mean, I'm sure it ain't much more than that. But if you got a wife or a mother or grandma or someone's got one of the mixers, just tell them let you borrow it
you
to
can
grind
hook a cordless
a little.
drill to it.
Yeah,
we've done that.
Yeah.
Hey, have y'all ever used the old hand crank one?
I got one.
Yeah.
That's
we got
the old
hand
school
crank
right there.
Tenderizer at home, but my dad uses.
Yeah, you can see clamp them on the edge of a table.
I would do your research on a grinder. You don't have to spend a lot of money on it, but definitely do some research. Check out some YouTube videos because I can't remember what brand I used to have, but if it was anything that had liquid, like, a lot of times like deer meat will kind of have that liquid in it when you're grinding it. It won't. You just about had to freeze it solid to make it spit it
Harbor
out.
Freight that was like that. It was just
It'd gum up.
cheap one, knockoff cheap one.
It
worked, but you couldn't do a whole lot. You had to keep the parts froze. Like put the auger in there in the freezer, put the die blades in the freezer,
and that's something
cut blade in the freezer.
We didn't mention earlier is like if you're going to do ground deer, whether it be with beef fat or pork fat, get that fat froze. Yeah. Or get it to where it's
almost
crunchy.
solid. Yeah.
If it gets hot, it just
slimes up.
Personally, I like to freeze my meat before I grind it too. I like to cut it up into chunks. I'm going to grind it, get it bagged up, vacuum sealed, whatever, in the freezer. It just needs to be about 75% froze. Let it thaw out, catch it on the thaw before it's completely thawed out, and then it grinds so much better. It mixes so much better.
Yeah, it does.
Colder the better.
What else we got?
About time, ain't
we? We got
we
got about 10 minutes.
Gone through like I say, just take your time. That's the main thing.
So, all right, real quick, when you get a deer, what's your go-to? We know we're gonna make steaks out of the backstrap. We're going to take the neck roast. We're going to take the front shoulder. Front shoulder's probably going to get ground. Hind quarter, you got 1 or 2 really good roasts in there. Are you going to grind the rest, or what's your go-to process? Like, what cuts do you want off of?
Usually I'll get 3 cuts out of that hind quarter, 3 big roast.
Yep.
And then if there's anything left, I'll trim it off and throw it in the grind pile. I can either take those roasts and cook them whole or cut them into steaks or cut them up into jerky. That's what I like to do with them. The grind always usually comes from the shoulder.
We used to do a lot of stew meat.
Yeah, that's what my dad's. It was always
we didn't have a grinder.
Yeah,
so
when we was a kid, it was you had deer steak, you had stew meat. That's what
I do with the excess on the hind quarter, or some of those muscles I'll divide and cut them up into stew meat too. But I usually butterfly the back straps. I'll cut them, 2.5 fingers thick. Come back in, make another cut about 3/4 of the way down, kind of flatten them out. Put them in a vacuum seal bag, and then you got steaks, or you can easily split those and make poppers, whatever you want to do with it. But a butterfly backstrap's about the best way to grill them. It makes when you cut them open like that, it makes it look like a filet mignon. You've got a nice piece of steak. You could wrap a piece of bacon around it if you want, but you don't really have to. Me and Mikey cooked those several times last year, and they're dang good.
And see, I like taking those big roasts out of that ham. I don't usually break those down right off the bat because I don't know what I'm gonna do.
That's right.
So if I want to cook a whole roast or something like that, or if I want to use it for poppers or stew meat or something I can always pull that out and go ahead and do that with it instead of doing it right off the bat. Plus, it kind of keeps it from freezer burning so bad. If you do get one freezer burnt,
You can trim some
you
of it
still
off.
can trim some of it off of it if it did get some on.
There ain't nothing better than taking that top round roast off that venison hindquarter and throw it in a crock pot and making that Mississippi pot roast with it.
It's good.
I did. That's what I did 2 weeks ago.
Butter, pepperoncinis, and Lipton onion and a beef au jus gravy
Yep.
pack. Let that dude go all day.
Well, something we've
It's
learned
fine.
is like a lot of, all right, say, for instance, you don't eat a lot of roast. Invest in a tenderizer. Because you can take that roast, slice it into big steaks, run it through that tenderizer twice, and it's as good as a backstrap or anything else.
Fry that dude with some gravy.
It's good.
Shoot.
We gotta upgrade our tenderizer. We got an old one, but we got to get us a better one now.
I think the Meat Your Maker has a tenderizer too.
Mhm.
We need to look and see if they
Get our
add
hands
that
on
one to the arsenal, because a lot of times those tenderizers, they'll mount right on the front of your grinder.
Mhm.
They make different attachments. Like, oh, we got a sausage stuffer.
it. Yeah,
That's
we
what
did get a
forgot to
stuff.
mention. We hadn't used that yet, but I'm looking forward to taking some of that
Yes.
ground and making summer sausage with it, making case sausage, snack sticks, all those things you can make with case sausages. And then we got the smokers to smoke it in.
Can we do some deer boudin?
Yeah, you could. There ain't no-
Need to get the heart and liver out.
We can do that.
You could do that, or you could either mix some other, chicken parts with it just to make it. You could do it different kinds of ways, but it'd be pretty dang
Because
good.
it's basically just like dirty rice in a casing, ain't it?
Well,
Close.
I mean, we could
It's-
take. You could
Yeah,
take.
kind of. But
Sorry, Cajuns, if I got that wrong, but
well, really
all
good
it is.
boudin, or one of the brands that I eat a lot, is it's got liver in it.
yeah.
Yeah. So what they typically do is they grind whatever they take ground pork,
Yeah.
and then they'll take cooked liver and they'll cook all that together and make it into this cooked meat with their peppers and some vegetables and cook it down seasonings. And then they'll take rice, let the rice cool, and they'll mix it all together and they'll run it through a stuffer. And so you've kind of got that 80-20 meat rice mixture in there like we do ground. And that's boudin. Then you could smoke it or fry it or whatever, but it's pretty much everything's cooked in it when you stuff it, except the casing, of
Yeah.
course. So that's all you're doing is cooking the casing. But it's easy. It's not hard to do.
That was one of my favorite things to eat, boudin.
I've never had
We can
deer
figure out
boudin.
how to make boudin.
And see, you get people also talk about, man, that deer meat's awful. That duck meat was awful. The problem is they're overcooked.
It's overcooked.
Yeah.
You overcook it, you're going to definitely get that wild game.
Or they made a terrible shot and didn't handle it right.
That's true, too.
Or they didn't know what they were doing. They would get it processed. Somebody, I've had processed meat taste so gamey you can't eat it. You don't know what
Yeah.
they did when you took it somewhere. You don't know whose deer you're getting back. And that's what got me into wanting to learn to process my own.
Well, the thing about this
I
now
knew it
is
was mine.
you can get, you got videos, Mark's got videos, Meat Your Maker's got videos, Bearded Butcher, who's got-
Red
Meat-
Beard
Meat
Butcher
Eater
or
shows
whatever.
you how to do
Meat
it.
Eater's
Eater.
got it. I mean, you can find a video to do any kind of cut.
Oh,
process.
Jay Durbin released a deer burger the
I
other
saw
day.
that. Well, I mean, back when I started, there wasn't a YouTube or anything to go like that to learn.
It wasn't.
You might have had some old books on, how to cook venison.
But they were
That's
old
where I
books,
mean,
from
yeah.
the 50s and 60s,
Yeah.
and they really didn't know, we've
That was what they ate, period. They didn't care what it tastes
Yeah.
like. It was food.
And
it was all different cuts, and they did different stuff with it. We've got cooking has evolved so much from back then, especially wild game now.
Yeah.
There's, so
There's
many
no
things you can
way.
do
I
with it.
agree. Them burgers we ate the other day, that if somebody was like my grandmother was 100% anti-deer,
Oh, she'd
she'd
have
have
ate.
tore that thing
Yeah.
up, and I thought not a second about it. I mean, it was a good burger.
Melissa was like that. She would not eat deer meat, but all she'd ever eat was fried deer meat that your daddy fried.
that was
and
probably
that was it.
Might have been overfried.
Extra
sometimes.
well done.
Yeah, it was extra. And that's just the way he knew how to do it. That's just what he done. But then I started doing like roast and different things like that with the deer meat, and she started eating it, and she was like, "Well, that wasn't deer. It was deer."
Yeah, I mean,
Grinding it, making tacos. chili,
Daddy will
and-
do barbecue deer, and it's just as good as a pork.
I think
barbecue.
me and Jamie's picked up on this a lot. Is deer does not. Everybody thinks deer is just like beef, and it does. It'll handle a lot of the same beef flavors, but there's a lot of stuff that just don't go with deer. Like
Yeah.
to me, like it
My
doesn't
personal
take.
seasoning, it'll get hot quick.
Yeah.
Prime beef will get hot on deer quick.
Now that's probably one of my favorites for it, but to me, deer does not handle pepper or anything that's spicy well at all.
I
Like if
think
you
it's 'cause
put just a little bit of black pepper on deer, it'll taste like straight black pepper.
I think because the texture of grain of the meat's so tight, it don't absorb it like a beef would.
Yeah, I mean, I would, that's one of the things. Definitely, salt, pepper, garlic's always a good go-to, but just easy on the pepper. And there's a ton. I mean, you done that open season from Townsend.
Yeah.
It was excellent. So I think a lot of it too is finding the season that you like that works with the product you're cooking,
And tenderized deer meat will cook a pretty good bit faster than non-tenderized.
and it'll taste different.
Non-tenderized.
It'll absorb some flavor. Since we're talking about cooking, Anything good this weekend? I know we had Como.
Man, all I know is we keep at this rate,
gumbo.
we're
Gumbo,
gonna be some big boys by the end of deer season.
Pretty much
Like
ate a whole pot of gumbo, pretty much.
That
Be
was
on
good.
diet to come turkey season.
That was a triple.
Breakfast was good.
Yeah, the gumbo was good. That was a triple team effort between y'all three.
Shoot,
That
I
was
made
good.
when Mark got out of stand, I had him a hot
Ham and
grilled ham and cheese ready yesterday.
It was good.
Did on the old Blackstone.
No,
We got to get down to the back porch so we can really get to cooking.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. This weekend, I think we're gonna do some fried backstrap. We got tenderized. I'm gonna get that out. We put it in the freezer. I'm gonna take it out and let it get right for us for Friday. We'll bring some turkey breasts that I'm gonna smoke down to camp. We're gonna put them on that slicer and see if we can
Deli
get some-
slice. That's going to be so good.
Man, we're gonna make some turkey subs or something like that. That'd be really good.
Some turkey ham or turkey melts.
Yeah, Mikey, you sent me a picture. I guess you sent the whole group a picture. Some breakfast tacos.
I was messing with y'all. I knew
Did you
y'all
not
were
cook
hungry.
those?
Yeah.
Oh
Man, I was in the
you
deer
got to-
stand.
put
Oh,
them
I
on-
knew y'all was in the deer stand. I
put
didn't get
them
to
on
hunt
the list.
yesterday.
I put them on the list for breakfast this weekend. So
Yeah,
we got
I
to
was
do
at home.
those one day, and then we got to have some more gravy and biscuits. I mean,
No, that's no problem.
Man, I manned up yesterday. I hunted till 11 o'clock with no heater.
You know what? When you were texting and I asked Mark if you got done, I said, Jamie, he stepped up. He must have got mad at the heater or something.
No, I actually was very, very peaceful sitting out there. I had on enough clothes, but yeah, I never got cold really.
I never.
It feels good when you're in that open air.
It's different.
Nothing wrong with the box stand, but I feel
Like,
different.
I
When
feel
I'm
like I can
sitting in
see
that ladder
better.
stand.
I
You
don't
feel
know.
like you hunting is what it is.
Yeah, I feel
Maybe
hid.
One nation. I never got hot. I never got cold one time. This one.
No, I didn't get time to like YouTube, Facebook, all that kind of junk while I'm setting up deer stand. I do have a tendency doing that in the box stand sometimes,
Yeah.
but the
Oh,
climbing
yeah.
stand, I'm like, man, I can't. I got to look the whole
Yeah.
time. But
Well, I figured up a little camera rig on those Dixie blinds. Got the perfect lip. We changed out that clip on that camera to mount to clip on. So I can sit there. I can run the video camera. Got my cell phone in one hand, spitball on the other. it's
Good
a
to go.
perfect setup. Heater. Now Michael did. He got to smelling something. I said, "Son, what is that?" He said, "I don't know." He got to looking down. That joker done burnt half his damn pant leg up on
What?
that heater. I was like, "What are you doing sitting so close to it, man? Take on brand new pants."
Golly.
They just got big old giant holes all the way up to his leather boots. I said, "You didn't feel that?" He had on his leather boots. He said, "No, I just smelled something." I said, "Dang, you like you did catch on fire."
enough to add fire extinguishers
Yeah.
to deer
Oh,
stands.
man.
Like, man, I'm glad those things were flame retarded or whatever. If they'd have been flammable, we'd have been in flames in that thing.
Y'all need the GoPro back in the stand.
Yeah, y'all got the camera flipped the
Turn
wrong
it
way.
back on y'all.
It's been good.
Buck Junkie bloopers.
But, yeah.
Oh, we have them. We have plenty of them.
I had to admit, I did laugh.
We just got
I had
started.
I had a good time laughing this weekend.
If you'd had a camera to film Waylon since he pulled up, next time, pull that camera out and just get his reaction.
That was good.
He thought something was going to get him. He might not sit out there this late anymore. Watch.
No broke him of it.
We're gonna
I don't
have
know.
to,
I swear, man. I said maybe it's my scope's not that good. Binoculars, man. I couldn't see nothing. I mean, he had to have deer or something in the field. He was waiting till they went to sleep. Or
He
something.
has these, I don't know, they're Nikon, that's how old they are. They're Nikon, like 54 millimeter objective, I don't know, like
with built-in sunlight.
8x78 or something. It's something crazy. And when he bought them, I forget where he was at. I was with him at Bass Pro. And the guy said, "What are you, a riverboat captain or something?" He's like,
that's the ones they mount on the front rail.
That's what the dude at Bass Pro wanted to tell me he wanted to see that pair. You riverboat captain? He said, "No, man, deer hunting. These things, like you can see way down the river in these things.
Like 2-liter
But
bottles.
you can sit out there." And I was like, "Mike, there's no way you can't even see your scope to look through it. It's so black. What are you looking at?" He said, "Man, I can see deer. He can see all night. If there's a little bit of moonlight, oh man, them things will light up."
He had them charged up the other night because it was dark.
We'll get him out of the stand earlier than that this next time.
Yeah.
What we need to do is play that old movie Ghost in the Darkness. Where the lions are getting them folks.
Oh,
Just
he'd
tell him,
be
you know,
sitting
them coyotes just like that way.
yeah.
You better start getting down a little
There they
earlier.
are.
Hey, as scared as he was the other day, I think he could have watched Lion King before he went hunting. He'd been scared.
Watch, I bet he has his pistol on him next time.
Oh, Lord, no, I ain't going to get around
Don't
him.
go pick
Hell,
him
he's
up.
liable to shoot the whole woods up and kill me.
He was just before firing the other day.
I mean, he told me he had his gun off his shoulder, walking with it. He don't never do that.
No, he had my gun.
Yeah, he did take your gun, didn't he?
I'm glad that gun made it back one piece this weekend.
What'd you say early? Check your gun if somebody
You better
borrows
check
it.
your gun.
I checked it on Coyote yesterday. It's
Pretty
good.
much
It's dead on.
separated it. Well, it's going to be
Thanksgiving week.
We're ready to go back and get the deer stand. We got to get through some turkey cooking for Thursday, but it'll be another
entertaining weekend.
It'll be another entertaining weekend out at Buck Junkies camp. So y'all tune in next week for some more stories and tales of what we're got going on here at Buck Junkies.
Happy Thanksgiving,
Hey, we
everybody.
did get Jamie, your recipe's coming out with the sloppy doughs, right?
They were sloppy dough grilled cheese.
Sloppy dough grilled cheese.
Another idea to do with that ground meat.
Yeah,
That thing was good too.
It was good. It was messy, but it was good.
Y'all watch the recipe and try it.
We're
It's
gonna have
really
that
good.
Meet Your Maker grinder where we show y'all how to do that. Probably coming out on social some kind of way. The beanies and the sweatshirts.
They're up.
Y'all both got the.
Yeah, I got to I wore the beanie all
Is the
week.
website up and running? They on there?
It's on there,
They're on
ready
there.
to go. Go to buckjunkie.com. You can find those. We're probably trying to get a link out on social where you can see where those are.
We'll
If
share it
y'all
on
wanna
our other
support us
pages,
or
too.
Look for some cool merch.
Those beanies are warm, dude.
Man,
Yeah.
dude,
The
I hung
freaking
in one.
pullovers are
Yeah.
warm.
Yeah, I'm pretty much sweating bullets now up in here. It's got hot.
We will see y'all next time. Hope everybody has a happy Thanksgiving. For all of us here at Buck Junkies, we gone.